I think that's extremely serious if a elected leader says he's not going to abide by the Constitution. Then it's questionable whether the democratic system is operating. And there are not a lot of choices. If it's not a democracy, then the question is it a dictatorship? Now, obviously, that's the last place we want Turkey to go. But there are certain very, very worrying indications. One is that I think it's hard to say you've got a free press in Turkey at the moment. You've got over 30 journalists in prison. Some who've been released, I think from Cumhuriyet, released because of the challenge in the Constitutional Court, and the Turkish Constitutional Court upheld the challenge to the arrest and imprisonment of the two journalists. But in response to that, President Erdoğan said this court was wrong. Now, nobody is above the law in a democracy, and the president down to everybody else has to accept the rule of law. And so if the president is saying he won't abide by the Constitution, then he is putting himself outside of the rule of law and above the rule of law. And that does question whether you have a true democracy operating in Turkey, and that is incredibly serious. Freedom of speech and freedom of press are fundamental to a democratic process and to a democracy, and that is at threat in Turkey. And there is still time to do something about this situation, but what has to be done has to come from the president. I think he should stop challenging the Constitution. He should commit himself to the rule of law, and he should show real leadership. In a democracy, the voters choose you, not you, the voters. And that's how democracy works. And President Erdoğan, who has had tremendous faith placed in him over the years by the voters, needs to repay that faith by committing himself to the Turkish democratic process, to that secular state, to the freedoms that go with a democracy: freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of movement. All the curfews, all the loss of innocent life, the lack of leadership on these issues, these things are in the hands of President Erdoğan to do something about. He can change this situation. And as a democratically elected president, despite the fear campaign of that last election, he needs to show that leadership and to respect the democracy and the constitution of the country that he leads.